Hello. In this lecture, we're going to cover chapter 6, and to be exact, we're going to cover functions. So a function is pretty much the same thing as a module, and you will see that the definition of a function is similar to a module, but the only difference is that a function will return a value back to the computer, back to the part that called it. And a lot of languages provide certain functions already that are built into the language that you don't need to define or declare, such as random number generator. So in Python, there's such thing as a random number generator function, and what you have to do is you call it, which you type the name of the function, and what this function does, it gives you a random number. And you can specify the range that you want the number to be in, or you don't, and it just gives you a random number. So we call those functions library functions. That built-in functions are called library functions in every language. And it's usually just some common tasks, some common functions that will just save you time whenever you write your code. So the random number generator is useful in games, it's useful in simulation programs, statistical programs, computer security, such as encryptions. It's really big in encryption. And how it works is right here. You can see for yourself. Let me click my pen. So, see, we set some certain number to a random in a range from 1 to 100. So what this function will do for us, it's going to take a random number from 1 to 100 and send it back, and it will assign to this variable called number. So yes, most languages allow us to write functions because it's the same thing as a module, just with a return statement. Remember that. But this is what we have to do. So we have to, first of all, we have to write a function header. It's going to specify the data type of the value that you want to return, such as integer or string or float or real. Doesn't matter. And then it's going to have the name of the function and any variables that the function might be taking in, any parameters. Then we have the function body. It's the same thing as a body of the module. The statements that execute when the function is being called, which is basically the code that the computer will see if the function is called, and the code that the computer will execute. And then obviously the return statement, the main difference between modules and function, the return statement. The return statement will specify what we want to return when the function ends, what we want to save from that function. Let's look at this function. Right here, as you can see, we have a function. See, because the name is what? The name is function. And here is a module, because the name is a module. The start of a module, the end of the module. So, based on the comments, what we can tell that this function accepts two integer arguments. We have them here, integer num1, integer num2, two integer arguments, and returns the sum of those arguments as an integer. So, what it does, we will send some two numbers to this function, and this function will calculate the sum of them for us. So as you can see, the first part right here, the first line, is our header. So what do we have? We have the function, we have the return type of what we want to return, we have the name of the function, and we have the parameters. Exactly what is specified here. We have the data type, integer. We have value that is being returned, integer. The name of the function, sum, right here, sum. And any parameter variables. And yes, we do have our parameter variables, number 1 and number 2. And what we do inside, this is the body. What we do inside, we declare a variable result. This is pseudocode. This is not real code. In Python, it would look different, but the main idea is here. So, and then we set those results to be equal to the sum of our two numbers that were passed to the function. And then we return result. And this is our return statement. See? Return statement. This is our return statement. The main thing that I want you to focus on is right here. While we can pass as many arguments into a function as we want, we can only return one value. So you have to think about what you want to save, what you want to return. And it's very important that you focus on this because only one value can come out from any function. Here are some mathematical functions. So this one takes the square root of whatever numbers inside. SQRT, it returns the square root of 16. Then we have an area. We have power function, and it raises the value of 4 to the power of 2. So it will return 4 to the power of 2, 16. This is what this function does. And square root, this is going to be 4. There are some other mathematical functions that exist. I would recommend whenever you need to use them, just type in Google the functions that you want to use and if they exist in the language that you're working with, and just check and see for some certain spelling. So ABS calculates the absolute value of a number. Then we have the cosine function. It returns the cosine of an argument. Then we have round, rounds up to the nearest integer. Then sin returns the sine of an argument. And we have tan, returns the tangent of an argument. Here are some more functions that are built in, some more library functions, because remember the functions that are built in called library functions. So the data type conversion, so you can convert, if you want to use a number, you can convert it to an integer. For example, you have a real number, and remember that real numbers are the ones with decimals, and integers are just whole numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is an integer, but 1.2, 3.4, those are real numbers. So you can convert them. To integer converts a real to an integer, and to real converts an integer to real. Pretty simple. Here are the string functions, and remember string is a sequence of characters. So string functions are useful if you're working with strings. And so we have length, returns the length of a returns the length of the string that you're using. String. Returns the length of your string. So for example, if you have dog, right, your string is dog. The length is 1, 2, 3. So it will return 3. Append function joins multiple strings together. For example, we have the same function dog, and let's have another string called cat. So what append will do, it will just combine the two. So we're gonna end up with dog, cat. No spaces, no nothing. This is what it's gonna look like. Dog, cat. 2 upper and 2 lower. So these are pretty simple. They convert a string to upper or lowercase. For example, if you're using 2 upper on our string dog, it's just gonna convert it to all capital letters. And the same thing with 2 lower. It's just gonna convert everything to low letters. And substring is a pretty useful function. It can extract a portion of your string out of the original string. So let's take, for example, let's say we have a string house, right? And if we would like to take, for example, the last 2 letters of this string, we would call this function substring. And then we would do substring, substring, and then we would specify the first letter where we want to start. For us, this will be 0, 1, 2. It's going to be 2. And when we want to end, so 2, 3, 4. And we're going to end on 4. And this will give us SE, our new string that we got from house. We got SE. There are some functions that exist, some library functions that exist in some languages, but they don't exist in other. But it's still, you need to be familiar with those. So contains identifies if strings have similarities within them. And for example, if we use the word Monday and Friday, right? Let's take Monday, and Friday. And we want to check if these strings have similarities. So what we're going to do Monday contains Friday, right? Contains Friday. And then it will check if there are similar strings within the two strings. And what this will give you, because we have a similarity, it is day. The result that it will give you back is going to be day. Then string to integer, string to real, it's pretty simple. The same thing as converting integer to real and real to integer. It just converts a string to whatever you want, integer or a real. For example, if you have a 14.2 saved as a string and you need to use it in some calculations, you just use string to real on this number and it will return to you as a number instead of returning as a string. And the same thing, is integer, is real. We can test if the number is integer or is real. It will just tell you if you can convert that string to an integer or to a real. Here is how we can generate a random number in Python. So you need to include this statement on top of your program. Before you even write anything, this is what you need to type. This is going to be your first sentence because you want to import that library function. Because if we stored all of the library functions on our computer would run really slow because there's a lot of them and those functions use a lot of memory. So we need to tell the computer that in this program we want to use this function, okay? Then the computer knows and computer will import it for you and it will be ready to use. Then if you want to get a random integer, you will use this function, random.randInteger. What this means, random integer. And this is how you declare a random number. So you need to come up with a name for your variable. It's standard procedure as we've always done. Number equals random.randInt. Then you open your parentheses and then you put your range, in which range you want that random number to come from. So for this function, they used 1 through 100. So the lowest number that you can get is 1 and the highest is 100. But it's totally random. Here's what it would look like in code. So we have our definition of our main. And here's the random import right here at the top, at the very top. So this is the definition of our main. Then we have a for loop here for count in range of 5. So this loop will run 5 times because our range is 5. We assign this variable called number a random integer from 1 to 100 and then we just print it. That's all this function does. And this is the output, 89, 7, 16, 41, 12. But if I were to run the same function right now, I would get different numbers, probably. It's highly likely that I would get random numbers other than 89, 7, 16, 41, and 12. And here's how you would write your own function in Python. As you can see, it's exactly the same thing as writing a module. So definition, your name, the name of the function that you wanted to give, the parameters that it needs to have, number 1 and number 2, in parentheses, and then your semicolon. And then we created a variable result equals these parameters and the sum of them, number 1 plus number 2. And then we just return the variable. We just return the sum of those two numbers. See, sum of those two numbers. Then we just return it back. Here is a little example with code. So we have our main, definition main. Then we have our first age and we ask the user for input. Enter your age. Then we ask for the second age. Enter your best friend's age. Then what we do is we have a number called, we have a variable, called total, and we assign it the return value that will come from a function called sum, as you can see here. Now let's look for our sum function. Oh, here it is. Our sum function. What does it do? It takes two numbers, number 1 and number 2, and we're sending the two numbers that we got from the user to this function. as you can see, first age, second age, first age, second age. We send them into the function. And then we just take a sum of them. And then we return the number that we got right here. We just return it back. So what will happen? How this code will go? It's going to ask the user for input. The user is going to enter 25. Then the second age, the user is going to enter 24. Then the computer will look, okay, we have a variable assigned total, and then we have a function here. Then it will go and look for the function right here. It will find the function that you declared, and it will see, okay, what are we passing? We're passing first age and second age to the function. What are those numbers? 25 and 24 accordingly. So it's gonna, this is how it's gonna look like. Sum for the computer, 25, 24. This is what the computer will see, that we're sending 25 and 24 to it. And then what it's going to do is going to do result equals 25 plus 24. Calculate that, and it's going to return. This is going to be 49, and it's going to return 49. This is what's going to be inside of the computer when it's going to go through this function. Like, kind of like in the brain of the computer, if you want to call it that way. And then after we're done with this function, the total will be assigned the return value of the sum function, which is 49. So our total is 49. And then we're just going to print together you are and our total 49 years old. And as you can see here, together you're 49 years old. All right. Hope you had fun and enjoy. Bye.